Now, to appreciate what goes into an initial public offering, you need to talk to the team. Now, there's a big team that goes behind the works, the decisions that are made. And one crucial player in this process for the Kenya Pipeline Company's IPO is the lead transaction advisor. And guess who it is? Rina Hicks,
Well,
ladies.
Faida Investment Bank.
Yes. Yes, Rina. But you're being modest. But you're no stranger to people in terms of the work that you do, your passion for investment. And in this particular IPO, Rina Hicks comes in as the one of the lead transaction advisors for Faida Bank. She is the COO there. And on that day, you broke the news, what everyone was waiting for. That is a share price. And, people had been waiting for that big number, and there's reactions to it, and you'll tell us about that. But help us understand and appreciate what work the lead transaction advisor team put in and how exactly you fit into this whole process.
Okay. So thank you so much, Mark, for the opportunity to have this conversation. I think it's really important to be able to sort of take a moment and just look at the back end and just understand and appreciate what this is all about that we're talking about. So the Kenya Pipeline Company has this IPO, has appointed us as lead transaction advisors, and our role is to do several things. One is we take the lead in guiding, well, the Privatization Authority, because that's the appointee. They appointed us as lead transaction advisors to support Kenya Pipeline in its privatization. So we basically have to go through a process that is a regulated process to help the company come onto the stock exchange.
Right.
That process begins with a due diligence exercise, several due diligence exercises. And due diligence basically is the process of, if I was doing a due diligence on Mark, I will open everything that I can find. His bank account, I will come to your room and see what you do, how you sleep, how you make your bed, or whether you make it or not, sort of situation. But in a company scenario, it's legal. Do you have any lawsuits? Are there any things under the carpet that I need to be aware of from a legal perspective? Do you have all the titles that you're talking about that you say you have? Are they in the right condition? Are they used to get loans, or are they free? Those titles that you're claiming. Then we also do a financial due diligence to check the numbers that you've posted. Are they accurate? You say you make these kind of revenues, but is it true that you make those revenues? What about your expenses and all of that? And just check from a financial perspective that everything that you're saying you have done is actually true. Another due diligence that we do is tax. Okay, because tax is a big one. We need to know what liabilities from a tax perspective exist. We also do technical due diligence. We had a technical expert, an engineer who understands energy, pipelines, and the technology around how Kenya Pipeline works, to be able to come and just assess what is the capacity that they have. Do they need any more? How is the pipeline? Is it obsolete or is it working? How much time do we have with it? And go into the detail of all of that. Now, all of that due diligence then is fed into a process that results in valuation. We have to do a business valuation, come up with a value for this business based on the due diligence that we have carried out. We also have operational due diligence, HR. How are the staff? Are there contracts? From a legal perspective also, and a HR perspective, is everything in order? So I know it sounds very laborious, which it is.
It does sound. How long did that take?
I mean,
does it take?
The most part. I mean, it depends, right? So these are teams that had to work day and night, literally, going across the nation to everywhere that Kenya Pipeline has a base, an office, and just make sure that they do the proper due diligence checks.
And in simple terms, basically to verify that who you say you are, what you say you do, as you look to go offer to the public shares, is the truth.
Yes, and also just check, are there liabilities that are probable, which means we need to remove some of those liabilities from the profit and loss statement, for example, and expense some of those liabilities, knowing that it's likely to happen, so that the profit that is ended up reported is not an inflated profit, even if it had already been stated as a profit before. So that by the time we're coming to create an information memorandum, it's a document that can be relied on. It's not a marketing document. It's a document that explains everything about Kenya Pipeline, its company, the business, how it operates, the risks, and the findings from some of these due diligence exercises.
Right. And a result of that has been what you announced, the value of the share.
Right.
And people have been asking, so in terms of really saying what they do or what they're worth, that is the value of KPC as a company, there has been that reaction common across the board that that's a bit on the high end. Explain what went into that particular pricing. Who was involved in that?
So again, as a lead transaction advisor, we're responsible for doing the business valuation. And it's an exercise where we look at the business as it is currently, sit with management and understand what are their strategic plans and their goals over the next 5 years, project that into the future, look at the likelihood of that happening, and then using different valuation methodologies, come up with a valuation. Now, when we did that, we made a decision to go with the earnings, or rather EBITDA multiple valuation. And we thought that being a highly capital intensive business would be the best way we can represent and appreciate the value of Kenya Pipeline. And our EV EBITDA multiple was 8.1 times. We then did comparables with other similar pipelines. Now you have to appreciate that Kenya Pipeline is a regional monopoly. We don't have anything like it on the continent of Africa. And so we had to look at what other emerging economy can we look at to get a sense of the value of this company that has, similar business. And so we came up with some from India, and we also just decided, let's look at a developed country and see what that looks like. And so we also took two pipelines from the US as comparables. And so when people say it's overvalued, the main metric they're using is price to earnings. But you can't even use price to earnings in our view. And okay, let me put it this way. They're using price to earnings and using not a forward-looking, but a price to earnings ratio based on 2025 June numbers. And our ask is, okay, fine, if you want to use price to earnings, let's use price to earnings, but based on the full year price to earnings for this year, because we can really see what those earnings are likely to be.
Right.
We have PwC that has gone through a very rigorous process. They are the reporting accountants, and PwC is a global name. And it is a name that is trusted, and it is a name that is very thorough, and has gone through the books and looked at potential liabilities and then come up with certain numbers and also projections. And these projections are actually in the information memorandum and can be relied on. And so when you look at those projections, you will find that the P is actually 16.9 times. And so then you come back and look at the market and be like, okay, so 16.9 times price to earnings ratio, what does that look like in comparable with other companies? Now, the other thing people are forgetting to look at is the margins, profitability, and even pure cash that Kenya Pipeline has. It has in its books cash of 16.2 billion shillings, cash available to be deployed in whatever way the company decides it wants to. And so it's a very profitable company. It's a profitable company, has healthy margins, and it has cash. And so when we come up with a valuation like that, you also have to think about the fact that we're trying to balance two interests.
Right.
On one hand, this is a company that is owned by Kenyans. Do you want to sell it at a discount or at fair value? And then on the other hand, yes, we're selling it, and investors want to see that there's potential for this business that I'm getting into. And so we have to strike a balance between the seller and the buyer. Now, Kenyans sit on both ends, and it's important to find a way to make sure that the government is not being, or rather receiving a poor value for what it's selling, but at the same time not pricing it too high that it's not an attractive investment. And that's what I believe we have done.
Speaking of being an attractive investment, from what you're monitoring so far since the IPO launch or announcement, what has the reaction been? And where are you seeing the interest coming in from?
So it's very interesting that you ask that, because we have a lot of, the reaction has been excitement, to be honest.
Right.
80% of the action has been very positive, that, oh my gosh, we've been waiting for this for such a long time. Even from local institutional investors, it's something they've been really interested in. The key thing, though, is the noise on social media has been the 20% that's been potentially, questioning around valuation. But there's definitely interest. In fact, so much so that we've had to be clear. And we are trying to tell Kenyans, please make sure that you get a piece of this company, which is the most profitable business that government has fully owned as a state-owned enterprise. And make sure that you get a piece of this pie, so that it doesn't just go to institutions, well, Kenyan institutions or other investors, rather than the Kenyan retail investor. And so we've actually created an allocation policy that ensures that there's a chunk reserved only for retailers, even as we offer it to others.
When you say retailers, you mean?
Like you and I, Kenyan individual investors. Kenyan individual investors. So, for example, with the allocation policy, we have 20% of this IPO that is reserved for Kenyan individual investors. In the case of an oversubscription, what we have done is prioritized Kenyan retail investors, so that then if we find that it's oversubscribed, we shall prioritize individual investors. So this talk about, there's somebody somewhere, an institution, a foreigner that's going to mop this up and take it all, it's not possible, because we've created a policy that ensures that, we have caps for certain investors.
And you've spoken about oversubscription. Is that your forecast? How do you see it?
That's our forecast.
Right.
We actually do see it being oversubscribed.
Okay.
Given the level of interest by the key stakeholders that are there, whether we're talking about the oil marketing companies, whether we're talking about foreign investors, regional investors, local institutional investors as well. We're talking about local institutional investors that are managing 2.4 trillion shillings. What's 100 billion, 106 billion? Right? It's not much from that perspective. From that perspective. We have pension funds, you see? So they're just local, forget even foreign or international, just local institutional investors. We have the capacity locally to oversubscribe this issue.
Address something that's also been, in a way, perceptions out there. As the announcement was made, people looking at it, whether with skepticism or wondering. First, it's a profitable company. So someone would be asking, why is this the best time to privatize it? It's working. So you can address that. And then the aspect of why are we selling out? Are we, as you say, there's some anonymous foreigner buying our national asset. Can you address those perceptions?
So first of all, privatization is a fantastic thing for a corporation. Why? Because government in its nature is very bureaucratic. So processes of approvals and the natural red tape that exists within government prohibit companies, maybe that's not the right word, but prevent companies from growing quickly to the maximum that they could go, because there's constraints around even processes. Even something as simple as budget process. If you've ever dealt with government, there's just such a lengthy process to get those approvals coming through. And so those sorts of things constrain the company from being able to grow to as fast as it potentially could. When you privatize, you bring in additional investors, you bring in governance, you bring in new thinking and a freshness from a governance perspective, as well as expectations from shareholders, because now the focus is shareholder maximization of value, but also making sure that there's ESG, and governance is a big important thing. So why now? It's the best time, Mark. Look at the last 2 years, from October 2024. We had a scenario where interest rates started to drop. In 2024, in February, we had the highest level of interest rates we've ever seen. I remember the government issued a bond for about 18.4% tax-free. It was very difficult for people to access capital, businesses to access capital at that time. But as interest rates have come down, what has happened is that there's been a huge increase in interest in the capital markets, particularly in stocks, and investors looking at the stock market as a potential way to grow value. In the last 1 year alone, we've had the stock market, if you look at the NSE index, grow by about 55% in 1 year. Investor interest has grown. we're opening up CDS accounts every day in the hundreds like we never have. If we look, and I'm talking about us as a company,
Yeah.
you know, us
Faida
as Faida as a
Investment
company,
Bank, yeah.
I can't even imagine the rest of the industry. We're opening about 400 accounts every single day before this IPO. The interest in the stock market is higher than it has been in the last 10 years,
Okay.
to be honest with you. So they couldn't have been a better time from that perspective, because there's interest from investors. There's a growing awareness around equities or stocks as an investment vehicle, but also the fact that interest rates are down and bond yields are not as attractive as they were. A lot of people are like, okay, what other alternative investments can I look at?
Yeah.
And so we're presenting an opportunity here that is interesting for a long-term perspective, and for companies and individuals that are looking to get income from dividends and potential capital gains. It's a great time.
And to the worry, whether it's unfounded or not, about foreign takeover based on stake, and what measures are there to safeguard against it?
Yeah,
if at
so
all?
you know, like I said, it's a regulated process.
Yeah.
And part of this regulated process is such that you cannot decide you're doing a public offer and deciding you're going to give everything to it. It's not even possible.
Right.
It's you can't do it. So we have to create an allocation policy that is approved by the Capital Markets Authority. So first of all, this IPO has been reviewed and approved by the Capital Markets Authority. We have an allocation policy that has been approved by the Capital Markets Authority. And that allocation policy, in a nutshell, in terms of how it's going to divide the allocation, is 20% Kenyan retail investors, 20% local institutions, 15% OMCs or oil marketing companies, 5% employees, and then the balance of 20%. The 20% to East African investors, and then the balance of 20% to foreign investors. Yeah. So we've created it in such a way that we've covered the bases to make sure that stakeholders also get a piece of this pie. And there's not one single one. In fact, the result of this has been investors being like, we need a bigger stake. What's 20%?
Yeah.
I mean, us as one institution can take the full 20%. Can we get more? So those are the safeguards to make sure that we don't have one individual or one company coming and taking over.
And this will be the largest IPO within the region.
Yes.
In years. But it's also not your first rodeo as Faida Investment Bank.
No.
You've been part of this process before with other companies.
Yes.
But for this particular IPO for KPC, what's unique about it, from in terms of you look back and you say, yeah, this was in your advisory role, we've done good here, and it's going to be well for KPC?
I love that question because I'm so proud of these two things.
Yeah.
The first thing that I'm really, really proud of is that we've taken the lessons that we've learned from all those other IPOs that we've been involved in,
right,
and made a difference with this one. The first thing that we're proud of is the fact that it's a completely electronic IPO. What does that mean? We're not using any physical forms for any investors.
Okay.
Other than institutional investors that may, require, like a pension fund, for example, has processes it has to go through, signatures and so on. Those are, you can count in your hand how many those are. Otherwise, other than them, everybody else, whether you are ABC Limited or Mark as an individual, you will use an electronic platform to apply for their shares.
Could be my phone,
your phone,
my laptop,
your laptop. And if you don't have a smartphone, you can use USSD. So if you're in Turkana or you're in a far-flung area, you don't have a smartphone, it's okay. You can still participate in this IPO. So that's the first thing I'm really proud of, the fact that it's fully electronic. What does that do? It makes it transparent, reconciliation is seamless, and it prevents fraud. The second thing, Mark, that I'm really proud of is something that we have instituted in the memorandum and articles of Kenya Pipeline. And that is the fact that the board will have to have 2 seats. 1 seat for the Fund Managers Association, that's for institutional investors, or what the CMA call qualified institutional investors. And the second seat is going to be for oil marketing companies. They're a key stakeholder and a big customer of Kenya Pipeline.
From experience, why is that important to retain those 2 board seats?
Because of governance.
Okay.
So one of the things that is important is making sure that the interests of stakeholders and shareholders are taken care of. You don't have a situation where only the CEO's interests are taken care of, or just the board's interests are taken care of. But here is a situation where we're going to have one of the seats representing investors and the investor community at large, to make sure that the decisions are being made to the benefit and to the interests of all investors. But then we also have a stakeholder that is going to be given a platform to be heard, and to make sure that they have a seat at the table to influence strategy. Because when Kenya Pipeline does well, then their businesses are facilitated better. So it's really just about governance, and governance is important. In fact, corporate governance and all these ESG sort of things are important in making sure that companies actually perform better. And so for me, it's exciting. I think one last thing that we're really proud of, to be honest, is the team that has been behind this IPO. It has largely been driven by Kenya Pipeline. And just to see the professionalism that the team at Kenya Pipeline have had, we would never have been able to get to this place if it wasn't for their cooperation, and if it wasn't for their expertise in being able to deliver a lot of the things that we've been able to do. The due diligence processes I was telling you about.
They could have chosen to make it hard for you.
They could have chosen to make it difficult for us.
Instances.
And they could have said, we don't want you guys to privatize. But they acted with such professionalism. And I'm just really, really proud of the team.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it's good that you brought it out. In fact, this can even be a case study in some classes.
And it will be.
And I'm sure it's
in
already been added to either your LinkedIn or your resume in terms of achievements. And well done to the team. Indeed, that not many of them are seen or known or get to the stage, but it's good that you've noticed there's a big team that has supported in this. Now, in terms of timelines, so right now, since January 19th to February 19th, the initial public offering, it's open. What's happening now? When you say IPO is open, what's happening?
So what's happening now is that we are educating the market, educating investors, putting out content, advertising and marketing. We're going through now, this is why I'm sitting here talking to you. We're trying to create awareness around the IPO. But what's also happening is that we have applications coming through. As I sit here, when I checked this morning, there was about almost 600 applications that had already gone through without even much marketing. I mean, it's only been a week since we opened. And so we haven't quite begun the marketing process, but we're going to begin now. So we will start to see.
It's more organic right now.
It's more organic right now. People, it's just word of mouth at the moment. But we haven't yet begun like a full-scale marketing. But once we start to do that, we'll begin to see huge applications come through. So that's what's happening. People are going on their USSD platforms. They're clicking on that eIPO system and applying for shares and buying. And the beauty about it is that even as people buy, let's say you buy today, Mark, and then you get a bonus and you're like, you know what, I think I want to add more shares. During this period, you can always go back and add more to what you'd already applied for. So during this period, there's an opportunity for people to invest and reinvest again and add more shares. There's no problem as long as you do it before the 19th of February.
19th of February. And then after that, there is what I've been hearing, allotment on March 4th, March 9th.
Yeah. So when we close on the 19th, for 1 week, what's going to happen is what we call reconciliations, to make sure that we don't have any errors and so on. So the registrar, who is image registrars, are going to do reconciliations. And then on the 4th of March, those shares will be allotted and at that time credited into CDS accounts of all the investors. And then after that, which we're hoping will be around the 5th of March or thereafter, depending on the availability of the president and everyone else who needs to be a part of the bell ringing ceremony, is have a bell ringing ceremony that will commemorate the first day of listing of Kenya Pipeline on the stock exchange. And what that means is that anybody who has bought the shares during this IPO period will be able to sell the shares from that day. Or those who didn't buy for whatever reason and want to buy the shares, they will be able to buy it in what we call the secondary market. So this IPO period is what we call the primary market. And then once it lists on the stock exchange is what we call the secondary market. So that's where now trading will happen and the price will be determined by supply and demand.
And it's good that you've said it's something that can be accessed even USSD in terms of simple phones, wherever you are, it can be done.
Yes.
If from learnings of previous successful IPOs, what are you really going to go strong or heavy on? Because I was part of, I participated in the Safaricom one.
Okay.
And this is an example just to show the communication around it. There was euphoria even. So if I didn't do it, I would feel like
You're missing out.
you're missing out. So how are we learning from that in terms of really putting it, actually not putting it out there in the market, but helping someone really appreciate that this is worth your while?
Yeah.
Yeah. How are we approaching it?
So we, as an industry, we're coming together, and from Wednesday this week, we'll be doing a lot of mashinani education.
Got you.
So out in the villages, through chiefs, through border associations, like we're going out to let people know that there's an opportunity for you to invest. One of the things that breaks my heart is how much we bet as a country. In fact, if we just look at betting in 1 year and the kind of billions that people put aside in betting is more than they need.
Yeah.
Right? Like if we just, and you only need 900 shillings.
Yes.
And so everybody can participate.
Right.
So that's really what we'll be doing, is educating people to understand that this is so much better than betting. This is a real investment that will give you real cash and that you can depend on, rather than money that is patapotea.
Yeah. Something or at least even in this room, behind the camera, there's about 3 ladies there and one other. I'm picking the ladies because of chamas. The ladies are normally part of at least 3, 3 chamas.
Okay.
Are you targeting them as well? Because I don't know about the gentlemen, if they have chamas. Maybe Job here has, but are you targeting them as a key?
Yeah, so they're key, but the challenge with chamas, particularly in the way that they are formed, they're very informal. And you have to be registered. So if you're a chama and you're registered, you're good. Whether you're registered as a self-help group or a company limited or a partnership, you can participate, but you have to be registered.
Right.
Because in order for you to participate in the IPO, you must have a CDS account. And for you to have a CDS account, you need a registration number.
Okay.
So I would, yeah. So if
you know how people can say to collect money to a particular cause, even if it's a group of people.
Yeah.
Can people decide, let's collectively, of course there's a trust issue, but I see group thinking as well in this, where
let's
people
put money
can,
together,
let's put money together.
I guess you could, and I suppose if you trust one another and you have side letters to say that, yes, these 2 people are investing in their names, but they represent the 15 of us, and you can trust that process, why not?
Yeah.
You can open an account and do it. But I'd encourage everybody to just open an account. It's only 900 bob to buy the minimum number of shares, which is 100 shares. Just so that in case something happens, one of the members passes on, life happens. Then it becomes a very complicated process to do the transfer of shares from one person to another, because it becomes a succession issue. So it's always best, if you're registered as an institution, do it that way.
Got you.
Chamas, please register yourselves, even for future posterity and for future doing meaningful things together. It's always best to register. If you're not, let members register in their own names. That's my personal advice.
Yeah. No, and it's good to get that, because I'm sure people have asked you.
Yeah.
And just to address this, one special aspect of this IPO, it is accessible here in my hands.
Yes.
Less paperwork in terms of filling up paperwork. I remember queuing, walking with those papers, filling them in 2008. And it sounds, I don't know if you've heard people ask you, it sounds intimidating that, a CDS account, do I need a broker, and how, like, it feels there's a lot of stopgaps to get there, to access, but just help someone appreciate that,
it's so easy. Like, I mean, just this morning, a Kenyan in the UK was like, Rina, I don't even know whether I have a CDS account. Can you help me? I was like, no problem. Here's a link. Click it, open a CDS account. Go on the Faida Trader, right? Click here. You can download it, or you can go on our web application, Faida Trader. He went on. He's been able to register, and he has a CDS account. Right? CDS account is within a day. And then now come on the click on the eIPO platform, fill in your details, choose Faida as your broker and as your selling agent, and you're done. And you can pay with M-Pesa, or you can pay with an electronic funds transfer. You do not need to leave your desk or chair or home to apply for this IPO. And it's not difficult. Sometimes things feel like it's a lot of work, but it's actually not. You just attach your ID. You'll attach your PIN and perhaps a photo. Well, you will need a photo if you don't have a CDS account. There's what we call KYC, the know your customer requirements that you would do when you're opening any account, a bank account or any account anywhere. So those are the typical requirements that you will need.
Right.
But once you've opened the CDS account, then you can go ahead and apply
Right.
for
And
the shares.
as the last word, perhaps, I don't know whether it's heart-to-heart appeal, but for you as well, you've spoken about the 3 things that you're really proud of the process.
Yeah.
But 5 years from now, what will make Rina happy of having been part of it?
Yeah. I think what would make me happy is seeing Kenyans participate. I'll be very sad if I find that we got the opportunity to participate in such an amazing company, and then Kenyans, because of doubt or hearsay, suspicion, and not fact, chose not to participate. What I'm looking forward to is some of the things that Kenya Pipeline is planning to do.
Yeah.
The fact that they are trying to reduce their revenues that are focused on the pipeline transportation business, basically pipeline and storage business, to adding things like LPG as well as fiber optics.
Yes.
And that's going to really grow over the next 3, 4, 5 years. And so that's also what I'm looking forward to seeing. And I want to be part of that journey, seeing this company grow to those heights. And I don't know what's going to happen in the region in terms of oil and all of that, but I do know that at the moment, Kenya Pipeline is a regional monopoly supporting Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, South Sudan, and East DRC with fuel from here. And the potential continues to grow. And so I think that it would be really sad if Kenyans ignore this IPO.
Right.
Because it's going to be oversubscribed, Mark.
You better be part of it.
Yeah, just be part of it. And we're prioritizing Kenyans anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Asante sana.
Karibu.
I really appreciate your time, and definitely, where you could tell people where they can follow to continue hearing the advice that you have to give, because you'll still be documenting this journey. You could share that.
So ladies and gentlemen, I really encourage you to just research for yourself. We have an entire information memorandum that is got all the information that you need. Check it for yourself, read for yourself. Don't just read Twitter posts. Take the time and understand what is on there and read it for yourself. You can find the information memorandum as well as the EIPO platform details on kenyapiplineipo.co.ke. You can also follow me on MoneyWise for all tips and things around investing, and I will aim to do a lot more content around what is an IPO and what are shares and how can I participate and how do I evaluate what is a good share or not, just so that we educate people on how we can do this. So please follow, log on to that website, download the IM and share it with your friends, share it with your family, and read, make a decision whether yes or no, but make an informed decision. Don't let others make decisions for you.
I like that. And it's been a pleasure. Just having this discussion.
Pleasure's all mine.
I've been watching
Lovely
you,
to
so
meet
now
you.
it's good to meet you in person.
Thank you.
Asante, and all the best.
You too.